Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. One second. You're right. I just missed the recording button. Somebody pointed that out. Thank you very much. So it is recording now. This is session 27. Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable with Glen Bergeron. So I wouldn't say that it means you're old. It's just very well established. And anybody hearing that would say there is a ton of experience there. So where do we start with you other than asking, what have you been doing during COVID? Anything different? You starting anything new? Have you been watching, Tiger King? Did you watch Tiger King? Everybody's watching Tiger King.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. I've been pretty busy because I've had to finish teaching my courses at the university. So we had to go online with the courses and finish up the lectures and then do the exams and the practical exams. And I'm sure some of you may have had to go through it as students and stuff. So that was pretty busy. And then it's actually given me an opportunity to do a little bit more work with the World Federation. So we've been pretty busy with the World Federation, trying to get our next World Congress established, and we now are able to announce that. That's going to be I'm pretty happy about it. It's going to be here in Winnipeg in 2022. So the CATA and the MATA will be hosting the conference. So that's going to be kind of fun. And also, we've been doing some webinars as well. We've done one webinar, and I've just now organized two more webinars that the World Federation is going to be sponsoring. One on the 23rd of July and one on the 4th of August. They're geared primarily to academic institutions who are going to be running programs, either practicum programs or program assessments and things like that. So that's been pretty good. And we've been very pleased with the reception. Our first webinar had over 550 people attend it, so it's been good.
Yeah, amazing. And just sort of, you keep carving these paths for ATs, from the start of your career until now. When you look back, it must look wholly different now, both with the cataract surgery and just from the time that's passed. What would you say some of the biggest changes to the profession have been since you sort of started, or since you started keeping an eye on that as things have changed?
One of the biggest changes that's happened over the years is the change in ratio from male to female, and that there are now, in the CATA, there are more female therapists, members of the CATA than there are males, whereas when I started, it was actually dominated by males. It was a very small organization when I first started, but I certified in 1975. That was the very, very first certification class. And in that class, and some of you will know Ann Hartley. Ann Hartley was was certified with me at the same time. And I remember going to our CATA conference, and she was the only female there.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that has changed the demographics of the association, I think, for the better. It's been, I think, a very welcome change to our association.
Yeah, that's amazing. It must just be so amazing to sort of look back through time, but also to know that you've had your foot in all of the stuff to sort of develop, the World Federation, the profession as a whole, and these kinds of things. And as we have sort of chatted on on here and outside of here, as I've chatted with guests on here and then participants on here, we kind of get the feeling that athletic therapy as a whole is changing as well, sort of starting to make some inroads into areas that it may not have been in the past. One thing that we've identified, and maybe it's a little bit different in Manitoba, I'm not too sure, but is the ability to get in with amateur level sports and start having some impact at the grassroots. Is that a focus out with you, or have you noticed a shift there at all? Maybe in Manitoba or like countrywide, or do you feel that sort of shift coming?
Yeah, I think we've always had some inroads into amateur sport. Obviously, I worked amateur sport when I was a student, etc. But the difference is that now is that I did them all for free, and now the amateur sport is starting to recognize the value of having a professional on at the events, and they're seeing a monetary value to having that person there, in the first instance preventing the injuries, and the second, if an injury occurs, that they're being properly managed. So more and more of our people are getting paid positions with amateur sport. Whereas when I did it, it was all for free. I may have got a T-shirt or a jacket or something, but so that's been a big change. And of course, we also have more resources because we have more people that are graduating from programs, and so we're now able to have a bigger outreach to a whole host of other amateur sports, right down to the community level sports in hockey, football, soccer, rugby. Those primarily are those sports that we're actively involved in. The other is that it's also like the profession has grown beyond the reaches of just traditional sport. So we're in, like with Cirque du Soleil, for example, is a major employer of our profession, and other entertainment industry or companies are doing the same thing. And we also have made major strides in industry as well. So we talk about the industrial athlete, for example, and stuff, and people are recognizing what I refer to as the sport model, that we've been able to evolve, to grow, and people are recognizing that we've had so many successes treating our athletes with this particular model that we refer to as a sport model, that same kind of philosophy could be used within industry. And so in the lumber industry and in the construction trades, and they're all now seeing the value of having athletic therapists there working, again, in the preventative side on ergonomics, etc., but also dealing with patients in terms of rehab and the return to work. And so that's another opportunity for employment. The other is that I think that we, people in the industries have recognized the really valuable characteristic of people who are athletic therapists, who choose to come into this profession, who go through the profession and who get trained in the profession, that they have really strong people skills. Yeah. And so the fact is that they want to have these people with that kind of character and that kind of skill set, that they can identify with people and work with people who are injured and get them back to work properly, etc. So there's a whole host of opportunities. So in the retail industry, for example, we have lots of our members, and now they're working in the medical retail industry, where they're selling, they're the representative selling hip replacement things. And we have some of our people that are in the surgical suites advising the orthopedic surgeon on how to use that particular appliance. Well, these people have got this academic background, this medical background, and they've got the people skills, and they've got the passion. And so that's an area where there's growth. There's also growth in the insurance industry, that people are also recognizing, because of the skill sets that our members have, that they make great consultants in the insurance industry and case managers. And so we have people working in those areas. But largely, that's basically saying that we have great people, and we have a sound academic foundation in the anatomical, biomechanical, pathological, and the medical realm that makes us pretty valuable people in a wide variety of industries.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing summary, and I think we can all take any number of points away from that one. And for me, one of the ones is definitely sort of the breadth of the practice or of the profession in terms of coming out of school and people not quote unquote getting jobs as athletic therapists, but there's a ton of work, right, as an athletic therapist, and you can make a ton of things work as you go and sort of get your foothold with all the foundational stuff. And you touched on the education and the experience and good people and all these things. And I just feel like the ability to work to depth with other human beings, that's a skill that's never going to go away, and it's never going to not be used or utilized. So you captured it so well, and I'm grateful for you to sort of summarize all that. And I think that's even great to take forward outside of the profession and deliver. If somebody ever asks, what is an athletic therapist? I think you just you just summarized it for a lot of people that may not be able to do that. So appreciate that. And you talked about the World Federation, and you talked about some of the conferences, and that's where you and I sort of sat across the table. For those that aren't aware, the World Federation is comprised of. Can you sort of summarize our relationship with the World Federation, and then just in terms of where it's going and how things are moving with that?
Right. Well, the World Federation has been in existence since the year 2000. So we're in our 20th anniversary right now. So it's still a baby, I guess, by the real terms. And when you think that the CATA is over 50 years old, and it's an association of associations. It's not an individual membership one. So you and I could not join the World Federation as an individual, but your association represents it. So the CATA is a member of the World Federation. In fact, they were one of the founding members of the association 20 years ago, and we now have 42 members, and we represent 26 different countries on 4 different continents. So we've grown quite a bit particularly in the last 2 or 3 years. When I came in as the president, we had a whole structural change in terms of our membership structure and our organizational structure and our bylaws. We went through the last 2 years. We've gone through a great big change in terms of how the association is structured and managed, and the membership has grown considerably with that. And the mandate of the World Federation is to be the international face of the profession. And who we're going to face? Well, we want to be the face. We want to be in the space, or we want to be representing this profession to other international allied health professions. So, as an example, one of our targets is the International Olympic Committee.
Right.
And if you have ever an opportunity to look at some of the material from the International Olympic Committee, as it relates to therapy, it's all physiotherapy. Everything in their manuals, in their handbooks, in their policies, it's all about physiotherapy. So and one of my personal goals is to change that, is to say you have to also remember that it's athletic therapy is there too, because my experiences, and when we go to the Olympic Games, and I've been to a few of them now, that's the athletic therapists that are doing the bulk of the work. If you're thinking about some of the countries where there is athletic therapy, we have a very strong contingent of members working in the Olympic Games, and yet we're not really recognized to any great extent as a professional name. And so that's one of the, and then there are others, like there's the FIMS, and there's the European Association, and there's the Asian Sports Medicine Association. We want to be able to make sure that we're well recognized at those by those professions. And in order to do that, is to be a world federation, obviously we have to have far more members than we have now. So we represent 26 countries, but there are 206 countries in the world.
Right.
The World Chiropractic Association represents 126 countries. So we have a lot of work to do before we can actually say that we're a legitimate entity. But we are making some real strong inroads in some very interesting parts of the world. We've done a lot of work over the last 2 years in Jordan, and to the point where they're going to have an association. We've done work in Greece, and there's an association in Greece. We're working in Trinidad, Tobago, are creating an association. Morocco. We're working with people in Germany and France and Switzerland to start to form associations. So it's going to grow over a period of time. And I always say the stronger that the World Federation is, it makes every one of our member organizations that much stronger, because you will now be able to look and say, if you want to sort of provide credibility and validity for the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association, you will say to people in your own country, you say, we're not just a domestic organization here. We are a part of a global movement. And here's the World Federation, of which we are a member. In fact, we are a founding member. And that just turns around and says, oh, then this association, your association, the CATA, must have some credibility. If they have this international credibility, then we have to pay the CATA the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, awesome synopsis. And if you're looking for one more country, I just spent a couple years in the Bahamas, so I know the head athletic trainer is on here as well. I seem to just sign her up for everything, but she's amazing. Sasha is on here as well, so maybe some discussion there as well. I've laid some roots, and she's going to be hopefully up here, and we'll have some back and forth in the near future as well, so we can move that up. And not a bad place to visit in the winter as well. So
I know it's interesting that we have a European strategic plan. And so we have a group of people in the UK and Ireland and in Greece and Spain who are working on the European strategic plan. We have a Middle East and Northern Africa strategic plan, which is Jordan will lead that one. Mm-hmm. We have a Caribbean strategic plan, which is Trinidad and Tobago will lead that one, and then they'll do all the outreach in the Bahamas. And we have an Asian strategic plan right now. We don't have a South American one yet, but that's the next one we have to work on.
That's when this gets posted to YouTube and somebody picks it up, and then we're in. Right. We just keep having the conversations and getting it out there, and highlighting all the things that we're capable of as a profession, and amazing work you've done all over the years. And you talked about some of the Olympic Games you've been to, and obviously the PhD and the MSc before or alongside those. Were you ever sort of set on going one way or the other? Or was it an option? Academia, quote unquote, academia, or experiential, or like on field experience, or were you always sort of like, I like both, I'm going to sort of interconnect them?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think very much like a lot of people, when I came in, when I wanted to be the therapist for a professional football team. Yeah. I wanted to be that. In fact, my first job offer that I got was with, not an offer, I was second in line with the Seattle Seahawks. Okay. And so I was applying for that, and I was just young. I don't know. I probably would have survived it, but so it's a good thing I didn't get it. But then I worked for the Edmonton Eskimos, and I worked for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So I had my opportunity to work with professional sport. And as fate would have it, I got an opportunity to work at the University of Winnipeg. And I was at that time just replacing someone who was working as he was their head therapist at the University of Winnipeg. And he was going off to start his master's degree, and I was just finishing mine. So I went there for a semester and worked at almost no pay, which is part of the story in terms of saying, you got to take your opportunities where they come, because they spill into other things. And then as it happened over the next couple of years, the job came open at the University of Winnipeg, and I was fortunate enough to get that. So I worked as the head therapist at the University of Winnipeg for 10 years. And during that time, I felt that it was really important that we start to have an academic program in athletic therapy, like an entrenched one. The programs they were all sort of on the side of your desk, in physical education and things. And I thought we needed to have something was more structured. And so I got invited to go to the University of Manitoba, which is just across the city from me. Mm-hmm. I'd been at Winnipeg for 10 years, and they asked me if I would do that. And I and but I was going as the director of their athletic therapy clinic, not an academic position. But they said, we do want to move into the academic stream, and we'd like you to, in 2 or 3 years, we'd like to move you up to that. So on that sort of premise, that's why I moved to Manitoba. I moved to Manitoba because they had a medical faculty, there's a bigger university, and I thought, well, that might be the place to put a program. But as it turned out, I was there for 9 years and got bogged down in all kinds of politics because they have a physio program and a medical school and everything else. So there was lots of politics, and it ended up not happening. And then University of Winnipeg came back and said, we'd like you to come back to University of Winnipeg, and we would like to have the program here. So I jumped at that opportunity. And when I went back to University of Winnipeg, I went back to University of Winnipeg as a faculty member, not as an administrator. And so that's when I really went into the academic stream of things. Although I was always teaching at the University of Manitoba and University of Winnipeg, I always had teaching responsibilities, but this was now as a faculty member. But when I moved to University of Winnipeg for that second time as a faculty member, I met with the administration. I said, I will come, excuse me, I will come, but part of my academic workload has to be in the clinic. So I have 1/3 of my workload is in the clinic, and it's been like that. I've now been at the University of Manitoba for 26 years, again, and I've been an administrator of those 26 years. I was an administrator for 11 of them as a chair or as an associate dean or as an acting dean. But all of that time, even though I was an administrator, I still worked in the clinic 2 days a week.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just feel like that's so valuable, right? To be able to be on both sides. And I know there's a few students on here from various programs, or we're all students to some right, or have been. And those pearls and the nuggets that end up holding water from the clinic are sometimes so much more valuable than, maybe not more valuable, but they sort of heighten the value of what's going on in the classroom. And when you can sort of connect the dots on both sides, somebody who's on both sides, that makes a huge difference. Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, I've always said that being a clinician is maybe a better teacher, and being a teacher is maybe a better clinician, and it's just a great mix. And I also am a person who likes variety in my job. So I had the University of Winnipeg and the University of Manitoba, for that matter, gave me the opportunity to be a clinician, to be an educator, to be an administrator, and I never got bored in any one of those because I never did any one of them for too long a time. So I've had this variety in my life, and have had ongoing opportunities to have new challenges that keep you motivated and keep you moving and keep you growing. And that's the essence of having your jobs, is that you don't want to get stagnated.
Yeah, all such rich dialogue, and you talked about opportunity and sort of making lemonade out of lemons when you're not making much money, or I don't know if you're getting a T-shirt or a jacket that's nice. Do you still have any of those T-shirts and jackets that you got? I bet, like any good therapist, you got them racked up in your closet, probably.
Don't tell my wife. Don't tell my wife; she thinks they're gone.
Chronologically, somewhere behind the. I don't know, fur coats and whatever else is in there. But yeah, and you talk about timing as well, right? And it's not just a matter of good timing or lucky timing. You sort of set yourself up with the road that you create academically, the people that you meet, the timing of, when things are happening and how they're happening. And it seems to be almost like cosmic alignment when you look back at it, but your hard work pays off. And all of us have been down the road of not getting paid very much, or, working for a T-shirt here and there. It doesn't last forever. And you've talked already about all the amazing opportunities that have been, that you've helped in carving as well. And I keep coming back around to the conference, and, I started out in the US as an athletic trainer out of Canadian school, went to the US and then came back. And with each year that I've been back, I've attempted, I've gone to the CATA conference, been lucky enough to present as a breakout speaker a couple of times. And I just feel like that growth and that shift is really changing. The dynamic nature of the profession is really shining through with the conferences and the different people that are talking, and you're really seeing different skill sets, from athletic therapists. And you talk about, you even talked about the CFL, and I just have had opportunities to work with some CFL guys of late, and some athletes just during this time. And And one of the other things that keeps coming up is putting the athlete at the center of the focus, and allowing the practice to be driven by who's in front of you instead of, what test to do or what's to come next. How do you sort of, how do you exemplify that for students on your end out there, making sure that they remain focused on the person that's in front of them, or centered around, athlete care as much as it is learning a checklist of what to do and when to do it? How do you balance that out for students when you're teaching them?
Yeah, checklists never work, because there's never any one person who's the same, so you have to have that foundation. You've got to have all those tools in your toolbox, but they come out in all kinds of different orders, and you just have to be ready to know which one to take at the right time. And sometimes you don't take the right one at the right time, and you learn, and you don't make that mistake again. You just move on, right? But yeah, it's absolutely right. You need to be athlete-centered, client-centered, patient-centered, whatever it is. You need to be able to make that connection with a person first and foremost. And I always say the most important thing that you can do in terms of getting somebody better is to get them to trust you. And if you get them to trust you, and they are willing to then comply with some of the things you are asking them to do, or they also feel comfortable in saying, I don't feel this, feel that. So that, it's a partnership when you talk about the rehab process. I'm not doing anything for this person. I'm just guiding them along, and it's up to them to do the things that are going to lead them to the recovery. And so they just have to be able to learn, and we have to go on this journey together. And in order to do that, you have to have that connection. And that's why I say, the majority of the people that I've seen come through our programs, I am so amazed with their people skills. They can relate to each other as professionals. They can relate to the person. They show compassion. They show dedication. They show true interest and empathy. And that's when your clients or your athletes buy in. If you're thinking about athletes, for example, like, one of the toughest things, we're in such a hard position. We're in no man's land as an athletic therapist. We're not part of the coaching staff, and we're not part of the athletic program. We're somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And we have to bridge that gap, and we have to be able to have interaction and with the coaching staff, but we also need to have the athletes' trust in there. And so I always used to go and have a talk when I joined a team. I would always have a talk with the team, and I would say, I'm the athletic therapist here. I want to win as badly as every one of you. Coaches and athletes, I want to win. I want to win this championship as badly as you guys do. I'm going to do everything I can to win. Except there's a line. I have a line. And my line is going to be the one where I'm going to have to make the hard decisions. And sometimes the decision is going to mean that we're not going to win. But I'm going to have to make that decision. And I tell my athletes, I say, don't think about you as a 20-year-old or a 23-year-old athlete. I think of you as a 55 to 65-year-old grandparent. And I'm going to say, what I'm more interested in right now is your quality of life throughout the lifespan. And you're stuck in this time zone, and nothing is more important for you than this time zone. But I'm stopping and thinking, but there's more to it. I know there's more to it, and I need to make sure that you have you have the quality of life that you deserve after when this time period is over. It's interesting. I can't remember what year it was. It was in 1984 or 86 or something. One of our conferences in Manitoba, I was the chair of the conference. And we had a panel discussion of all retired athletes who came back and spoke to our therapists about what quality of life was like now. Yeah. And it was the most emotional presentation. People everywhere cried because they said, oh my God, here's what their quality of life is now. And they all said, if I had known then what I know now, I would have done some things differently. And I wish people had told me that. And I really wanted to impress that on people because we can get caught in that whole emotion of sport, and we can make some decisions that are not in the best interest of that person, and because it may be in the best interest of the winning, but really we're here for the best interest of the person. And so I tell athletes that I tell people, and I tell my coaching staff and tell everybody else the role. I see my role. It might be different for you, but my role as an athletic therapist is to protect the athlete from the coach. Coaches go, "What are you talking about?" I said, "My role is protect the athlete from the coach." I said, "You as a coach, your job is to win. Your job is to think about technical and tactical and to win. That's your job. You do your job, okay? And the athlete, their job is they're going to do everything the coach asks them to do to win. And somewhere along the line, there's got to be a protection there. So I protect the athlete from the coach, and I protect the athlete from the athlete. And so I'm the one who has to draw that line. When I think it's unsafe, it's my job. That's my role. That's what you hired me for. So because you don't want to make that decision, and the athlete feels they're not even capable of making that decision, so they hire me to make that decision.
This is perspective that I've never heard delivered in this manner in my career, but you're hitting like these levels with me where I'm sort of evolving as a therapist and practitioner, having stepped away into some different roles and looking back in perspective and sort of a more holistic approach to my take is a more holistic approach to performance and blending wellness and performance together instead of treating them like two separate entities. And that's sort of where I'm going and where my mind's at. But I love this in terms of like, I'm looking out for you from so many different angles. And I think that's, I'm getting messages just saying this is amazing hearing this and having you as such a huge following and trend setting manner about, your career and the way you've gone about things and how professional you are and dedicated and all these things. So to hear you say that in that perspective of looking at the person as a grandparent, in their 20s, that's massive. I mean, from experientially, I've worked in all levels of professional sport, athletics, and university, up and down, and it's hard sometimes, for any one of us in our current role to step outside of the time zone, the space, the whatever that we're in, right? So even as a therapist, I've now where I'm at look wholly differently than I used to at the whole performance realm. But you talk about best interest from protecting an athlete, serving an athlete, and then for the longevity of their career. On here a week or two ago, I was talking about just meeting up with a young man who had finished his career as a professional baseball player, and I went and met him in the park because I was an athletic trainer, and he was just in his first or second year out of college. And anyway, we went to the park and we're just playing catch, and he told a story about like how. And he just kept doing this with his hands. I spent so much time working on my swing, and it left so much to be desired in him out of the things that he could have been, or he spent all this almost like he was. You talk about it, emotional. I had my son with me, and I was like, I was getting goosebumps from talking to him, just hearing him speak like this was the end almost, and that he had wasted time and wasted effort. And but life after that identity of an athlete, sometimes we forget about that. And I think this is knowledge that, as anybody who's here as a young practitioner, or this is eye-opening to hear, even for somebody who's been in it for 10 or 15 years like me. So Glenn, again, really appreciate you being here. And I'm just taking pages and pages of notes, and I know everybody else is messaging me here saying like this is well worth the free admission here. And
free? I thought you guys are donating.
Awesome to hear. Well, we are. I mean, we're all donating time and things like that. And then the next CATA conference, I think, again, coming back around to, the basis of these chats, just to connect people and get perspective, right? Like, so for me to be able to talk with you across the country and have a few other people listening now, and then more people when it gets archived, like, this is networking at its finest in terms of taking an opportunity out of something that was never there before, and really sort of utilizing these downtimes away from I don't know, what we're all used to, and making this happen. So I just want to thank you again. Your work has penetrated, all of the fields that everybody works in, and everybody that's made time to be here tonight, and that will listen in on YouTube, is grateful for this too. So to thank you publicly for all that you've done, and to be in the Hall of Fame, and still be completely active and within the profession. That's pretty awesome. I think they're gonna have to come up with a new thing. It's gonna be like I don't know, something bigger than a Hall of Fame. It's gonna be like I don't know, maybe like a clinic of fame, and it'll just be you. That'll be great. That'd be awesome. So five Olympic Games, I think you worked. Anything that stands out from working those games, other than we need more ATs in Olympic Games? From a memory standpoint, something that really jumped out at you from any of those that still sort of hangs around?
Yeah, I whenever anybody talks about that, and I've written about it a couple of times in other areas, but there was one particular incident which was just an amazing opportunity for me, where this was in Sydney. And in Sydney, I was the chief therapist for the Canadian team, and so I didn't assign myself a team event, because I wasn't going to have the time to spend time with teams. Where I worked with individual teams, so I worked with Simon Whitfield with the marathon. So I was there at the finish line when he won the gold medal, and then I followed him around, and we had to go and do all the drug testing and everything else, and on that one. And so it was an amazing experience to have that. And I was working with the physician there, and he worked a lot with Simon, and he predicted well before the race was over that Simon was going to win it. And Simon was in 7th or 8th place, and he said, the way Simon's running his race right now, he's going to win it. And sure enough, he did. And so it was an amazing experience to be there to watch that. But the one that was probably even more memorable than that was I worked with Dominic Bossart. Dominic Bossart was a Taekwondo athlete. She was our only Taekwondo athlete at the games. Yeah. And so I worked with her, and she was from Manitoba, and I had her as an athlete patient before, so I knew her from home. So I ended up working with her, and she was competing in the second week. So that means the first week is train, but she's the only person, and they brought in a sparring partner for her, and I'd go to her practice with her and things like that. But there was this big, long, lead up to her competition, and she was actually a medal hopeful. And but in her first match, something happened, and she lost her first match. Unexpected, sort of an upset and everything else. And so that meant that she now had to go through what they call a repechage, sort of the roundabout way to get back into the medal round. And she was absolutely discouraged, totally discouraged by this thing. And their coaching staff were pretty discouraged. And so she and I went out on the front lawns in front of the venue, so we're sitting on the grass, and we're kind of talking, and she was totally despondent. She says, I'm done. I'm quitting Taekwondo. I'm going to find another sport that I can get back into the Olympics with. And so I started talking, well, what other sport would you do? So we kind of talked about, finding another sport that she might be interested in, that she wanted to get into the next Olympic, because she's that talented. Right. She was this and that. And as we were doing that, there's a big lineup forming in front of the facility to get back in for the second round. And she said, I'm not fighting. I'm not going into the second round, because the second round she had to fight someone from Costa Rica, someone that she had fought 5 or 6 other times, but had lost most of them, and had gotten beat up badly by this girl. She was a huge, very strong girl. Yeah. And she says, I'm not going in. I'm not going to go and fight. Why would I do that? Why would I go and get myself beat up for nothing? And so we talked. And then this line was getting longer and longer in front, people waiting to get in. And I stopped. I said, all these people are standing around there, and here we are, we're within a stone's throw from them, and they have no idea who you are. But they're paid money to come and see you fight. But they don't even know who you are. You're sitting right beside them, and they don't know who you are. And I said, your job is to make them know who you are. Wow. I said, you're at the Olympic Games. There are millions of people who would love to be in your shoes right now, who would want to do this. And you're at the Olympic Games. You have to go in there and you got to make sure that they know who you are. And then I looked up and we were sitting underneath a maple tree and it had these huge maple leaves.
Yeah.
There. And I go, look up. What do you see? There's the maple leaf.
Wow.
And we said, you have to go. You can't. And so she says, okay, I'll go. But her coach wasn't with her. So I had to go in as her coach. And I had to go in and we ran in and we had to do this quick warm up. And she's doing these kicks and stuff. And I'm holding on this big bag that I haven't done any of that before for her. And all of a sudden she winds up, she takes a kick at this bag and she sends me flying. I'm rolling in the ground and everybody's laughing at me. She just kicked me right off my feet. So we said, okay, I guess you're ready to go. So she went in and she beat the girl, an upset. She beat her. And so she got into the bronze medal round and she got the bronze medal. And then we have all this thing happening. Now she's a medalist. So now it's like the media wants to talk to her. She's got to go through all the drug testing that has to happen. And cars are coming to pick us up and we're running around all over the place. CBC is waiting for us to do an interview, not us, but her, for an interview. So we go like about 2 hours of just nonstop chaos after she wins. We finally get back to the Olympic Village and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and there's not a soul around. So it's nobody even there to congratulate her that she's won this medal. And we walk in and so we get in front of the medical clinic, go, okay, well, what now? And, you know, we're still so hyped. And I go, man, we had a bottle of wine in the clinic. So I went in the clinic and got this bottle of wine, a couple of chairs. We sat down outside and we were underneath the Southern Cross, clear sky under the Southern Cross. And we had this wine and we go, life can't get any better. It was just the most amazing experience. So that was so much fun. Yeah.
That is just, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting messages and just people saying like, this is a legendary story. Legendary. It's almost like it's happening as you're telling it and really feeling that emotion from you. And this is it for athletic therapy as well, right? Like these are the things that you don't know are ever going to happen. But when they do, and then you in the moment, you don't even, I don't know, maybe you did, but in the moment, you didn't realize how much impact you have with these athletes and how much impact they have in your life too. And it comes back around full circle to sort of this, the human first approach to everything that we do and the skill set of, you know, being able to engage with another human being on whatever level that might be. And wow, what a powerful story. And I feel like everybody needs to hear that one. And yeah, and for her too, I'm sure just could probably tell the story the exact same way. And man, just I don't even know where to go with that one. You left me. I get those goosebumps again just hearing you talk about it. And
we've still communicated back and forth on it in the past, like every so often, every couple of years we touch base again, and it was just such an amazing experience. Another one, I just kind of gave you a little bit of sort of technology stuff. So in that was same thing in 2000. Cell phones were sort of kind of brand new, you know, like we didn't have nobody had cell phones, but we got cell phones as part of the mission staff so we could talk to each other, but there was no such thing as everybody having a cell phone. And I remember being in the opening ceremonies and when they were lighting the cauldron, I phoned home. And I talked to my family. I'm on the field and they're sitting there watching TV, watching the cauldron being lit. And I'm talking to them on the phone, opposite ends of the earth. And we're talking together. And I'm having a brain fart right now, but the fellow who won the gold medal in wrestling, he was the last gold medal at the end of the games. And we were already, the games were over kind of thing. And we were already back at the village having our final team party thing. And he came back. Of course, there's a great big celebration because he won this gold medal. And I was talking to him for a bit, and I said, you know, you're going to be a real inspiration for my son. And we started talking about my son because he was a wrestler, and I was coaching wrestling at the time. And I said, but my son's kind of moving away to hockey. because he can't do two sports. He's finding it really tough. He goes, what do you mean he's moving to hockey? I said, well, it's really hard to do two sports. He says, well, I need to talk to him. I said, well, you can talk to him. I pulled out my cell phone. I phoned my son. You know, I'm in Australia, and I phoned my son, and he gets on the phone, and he says, Brian, this is, and I'm sorry, his name
Daniel Igali.
Daniel Igali.
Yeah.
So Daniel comes out, and he says, this is Daniel. And my son goes, yeah, right. And no, this is Daniel. I get on the phone. Brian, it's Daniel. And so he had a talk with Daniel Igali right after he had his gold medal. And my son, he's talking to my son, you need to continue with wrestling. I mean, it was just an amazing, amazing experience. My son still remembers that to this day.
Wow.
So those kinds of Olympic experiences are just great. You know.
Yeah, amazing.
On the other hand, I had give you another experience in Barcelona, and this is now 1992. And I had a sailboarder from Manitoba, and he was a gold medal hopeful for Canada. And we got there, you know, prior, and he got there. This is like 2 or 3 days before the opening ceremonies, and he's in the Olympic Village, and he's walking down a street, and he gets hit by a police car going the wrong way on a one-way street in the Olympic Village, and he breaks his leg.
Wow.
And now he gets rushed into our clinic, and we say, well, your Olympic Games are over, right? And so that was really, really hard to take. And I had to now make all the arrangements for him to come back to Winnipeg to see the orthopedic surgeon to get the surgery done here and things like that. That was a tough one to try and do for this poor guy. His whole career went down the drain at that one. So so you get lots of ups and downs and highs and lows.
Yeah, but all of them sort of you know, pivotal moments in careers, right? And you never know what conversation or when it's going to pop up, and the you know, different roles that you have to play and different hats that you have to wear as an athletic therapist, no matter where you go, clinic in Winnipeg or Olympic Games, or, you know, and it just sort of brings up that I don't know, that quote is just sort of about collecting experiences and not collecting things, right? And that's living life, and that's learning, and that's doing athletic therapy. In my short-lived career is very much the experiences looking back, and not the things. Although those T-shirts are great, and they do pack a nice component, a nice portion of my closet as well. But man, so many good experiences that we're getting requests that we could have you on, like might be monthly, and we can just do story time with Glen. Is that a thing you'd be willing to take on? I feel like I feel like this is exactly what therapists could use, you know, just to see exactly what's out there. And again, another premise of this platform was very much to show the diversity in what we do, and having somebody with your experience and your willingness to come on here and share is amazing, as always.
You can get Alex to come on, because he's heard most of these stories already.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, do these ones change, or they get a little bit bigger? Fishtail, the fish gets a little bigger every time, or does he nail it pretty much every time like this?
He nails it pretty much the same each time.
Yeah. They're hard-lived experiences that are just ingrained and wow, have shaped you, and I'm sure shaped all your students. And it's amazing to see the impact that you have had and continue to have. And man, just really grateful for you to be here and share this, and to lay the foundation for us, Glen, in honesty. Like I sat down at that table as a mentor in 2019 at the CATA conference, and I was like, I know a couple things, like I'm happy to share my experience. And then you sat down, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to sit here and just listen this whole time, and it'll be great. And I pretty much did. And I know I think Nathan was on here anyway. He was at the table as well. And just nice to sort of like connect dots as we move forward in the profession and through these times, to navigate them together with people and listen to stories and experiences that everyone can share in and probably acknowledge on their own level, that, you know, it hits home on a certain level with every one of us as therapists and the roles that we play.
I'm sure I can learn a lot even from your stories. All of you all have stories already. I'm sure I personally could learn from you too. So anytime I get that opportunity, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, and I think the next conference is going to be. This is my thing. It's like the next conference after hosting these little Let's Chat things and sort of trying to grow the profession in a different kind of way, in my own sort of idea of how I can help with that, and everybody else who's on here on a regular basis. There's a few messages coming in, so I'm getting distracted because I get distracted by shiny things. But everybody just saying it'd be great to sort of just sit around and maybe we can do like a giant campfire, CATA conference around a campfire with and just tell stories, because that'd be pretty awesome too. You talked about a panel. Maybe we get a panel at the next conference that's just 10 of the best, and they just tell a story each, and everybody can just sit and cry and laugh and do all the things that that we need to do. This is awesome.
We did have a panel few years ago, I think probably 3 years ago. We had a panel of history panel. It says 7 o'clock in the morning, and I go, nobody's going to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to come and listen to a bunch of old farts. Well, the place was full, and it could have gone on for it could have gone on for the whole day. Like, it was just an amazing thing. We should do this more often.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that when I was in your shoes, and when I would go to the CATA conference, I'll confess. We had sort of the old guard. It was like the founding members. My mentor is Gord Mackey and Chuck Badcock and Ed Nowakowski. Some of these guys. These are all the founding members of the association. And I'm kind of the second wave of the profession. But the first wave, those old guys. I mean, they would always sit at the back of the room of the lectures, and then they would sneak out, and you'd watch them. And when they snuck out, we would go with them, and we'd follow them, and we'd go wherever they're into their rooms, and that's where all the rum was flowing and everything else. That's where all the stories were being told. Like, every night you had to go and sit with those guys, and they'd tell all these stories, and it was absolutely amazing to be able to go and listen to see some of the stuff that they had to say, and their experiences, and how they, what their passion was. It was just, we were always totally enthralled, but we always used to sneak out of the lectures, and as soon as they went away, we knew, okay, they're going for rum and we're going for the stories.
Yeah, amazing. I think there's a lot of that to be said, and again, like this is the opportunity to sort of connect people that haven't been connected. So the next time you're at a conference, don't be shy to when a whole bunch of people run up to you and say, like, they know you. After listening to you speak, I feel like everybody feels like we know you, like we've been old friends. But it's great. That's the best, right? Where we could sit around and just sort of share stories. But also, I love these conferences now, and the CATA and some of these where you can go share some story time, have some rum if that's your drink of choice, but you better have a drink, and then stay up until 7 in the morning when those meetings are happening. I think half the population stayed up, but and just share the profession, and it just grows organically that way. And a lot of these discussions on here have been interconnected with various practitioners from various fields. And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge as well when we talk to somebody as ingrained as you are. There's nothing territorial about being an athletic therapist either. And that's one thing that I really value as a therapist, as a professional, to sort of be open-minded enough to reach out and refer and be referred to with other professions. Doesn't matter to me what your background is. If you're a good practitioner and you're willing to help, then I think that's important too. And it's nice. The theme has been very organic, and everybody feels very much the same way that's been on here. So it's been really cool. I'm just going to open this up quickly, Glenn, if you're okay, for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Sure.
If anybody has any questions or comments, just feel free to type them in the chat box, or unmute yourself and just have a chat here quickly before we get to the end of this one. This is time's flying. I just feel like we just started talking, and this is it. My rum is not flowing, but next time I think. So 2022, the host is going to be out there, right? And it'll be in summertime, so that'll be good. Not winter in Winnipeg.
It's actually going to be a combined CATA World Federation conference.
Yeah, very cool.
So we're going to be able to bring some international speakers in to speak at the CATA conference. It'll be just great. They haven't got the theme picked out yet. Well, I think, no, there is a theme on. The theme is going to be recovery. But they haven't got all the speakers, the topics broken out yet. But it should be a great conference. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. So if anybody has anything, please feel free to type that in. 2022, start booking your tickets, because I'm sure that one will sell out pretty quickly. And if you're sitting at the back of the room, I know who I'm keeping my eye on when you leave. So just so you're aware, I'll be in your back pocket. Is everybody? Yeah. Julie Dixon, tell us about what you would consider the worst injury you've seen.
Oh, one of the one that comes to mind, I'll give you sort of the one that pops out in my mind. Well, now they're starting to pop up all over the place, but the one that really came to mind was when I was the Edmonton Eskimos, and our kicker went to kick a punt, and he got hit by an opponent. And I knew we were in trouble when we were running out on the field, and he was lying on his stomach with his head into the ground, but his foot was pointing upwards. Yeah. So he had a total fracture dislocation. And of course the crowd just, they go, oh, the big, oh, kind of thing. And they stick to this. So the first thing we did was go in and cover up his foot so that people didn't have to look at it. But I remember running on the field and go, oh no, this is not good. So that one comes to mind like right away. And it was really early on in my career. That would have been in 1975, I guess, a long time ago. I remember an athlete, a basketball player here at Manitoba when we had the 1999 Pan Am Games. He was a basketball player for the Canadian team, totally dislocated his knee. And so we had to reduce his knee on the field, like on the court, because he had blood circulation. So Dr. Andrew Pipe, who's a doctor with the Canadian team, he did the reduction, I did the holding, and somebody else had to start holding him down, kind of thing. So yeah, that was not a good one to have. I've never had anybody die on me, thankfully, but I've had lots of people I've had spinals, a few spinals.
Yeah, and we talk about sort of the roles and the conversations and the experiences, and this again highlights, sort of the depth of our practice and our profession, being able to handle anything and everything as it comes and being ready, and so readiness as therapists that are working in the field, or, even outside of the clinic or outside of the field, you have a skill set that can be applied globally in a situation of need. And it's amazing sort of the breadth and the scope, and you're able to handle all of these.
I'll tell you a story. I don't know if Alex has heard this one. I think he has, but
he'd hear it again gladly, I'm sure.
I was still a student at this time, and I was working for nothing for a major junior hockey team in the city. And most of the guys they were all the same age as I was. And then one of them was actually one of my best friends. And he got hit at center ice. He was looking backwards to receive a pass. Mm-hmm. And the opponent, the defenseman, who happened to be a city cop, cross-checked him right through the chin, right through the mandible, and lifted him off the ground. And he was in the air unconscious. And I saw the hit happen right away, and I knew that I was over the boards before he hit the ground. And I ran over to him right away, and he was in convulsions. And he had me chewing on chewing gum, which is another lesson, right? So I had to kind of get this gum out, and he was in convulsions, and I'm trying to deal with him and trying to stabilize him, and we've called for the ambulance already, and while I'm doing all this stuff, the player is arguing with the referee that he shouldn't have got a major penalty. And so he's sort of right there. They didn't get him off, and he's yelling and screaming. And I can hear this in the background, sort of, I think. But I'm dealing with this player. The ambulance comes, we stabilize him, we board him, we get him off. And as I'm coming back from, we got him out into the ambulance, and now I'm coming back onto the ice. And as I'm coming back onto the ice, they're taking him, the player who hit him, off the ice. And he's a city cop, and in his skates he's 6'8",
Right.
And I'm 5'10" and I weigh nothing. And anyways, for some reason or other, I have no idea why, but I jumped him and I hit him. I punched him because I was so mad. So I jumped him and I punched him. And as I punched him, I said, what am I doing? Because he's going to turn around and kill me. And luckily enough, my players came and they got me off before he got a swing in, and they pulled me away. And they took me away and they took me back into the dressing room. And I got into the dressing room and I was shaking uncontrollably. I was uncontrollable, shaking. And when I reflected back on that, on the whole situation, I looked at sort of how I dealt with the thing, and I dealt with the thing very matter-of-factly. Here's one of my best friends who could be dying, and I have to deal with him. And I just dealt with him like a robot.
Yep.
I just went through the protocol I was supposed to do. So when you guys do your protocols, you got your ABCs and you got your primary, your protocol, that's got to be like a robot. And I just operated like a robot, no emotion whatsoever in what I did. But then when it was all done and he was safe and secure and on his way, then the emotion kicked in, and I was a basket case. And what I learned from that is, if that emotion had kicked in while I was taking care of this guy, I would not have been able to provide him with the care that he needed. Mm-hmm. And it was so important to keep this emotionless, because I saw what the emotion did to me after it was over. And that's always stuck with me in terms of, make sure that you're prepared emotionally, make sure you're prepared to do things in a robot sort of way at the time of the event. You can't afford to let the emotions take over.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is if you prepare every time. So my students come in when they go to these events, they go, I'm really scared to go. And I go, yeah, and you always should be. You should always be scared prior to an event, because you understand the magnitude of the problems that could happen in this event. Mm-hmm. You understand that magnitude, and what you need to do is make sure you're prepared for it. So prepare for the worst and hope for the best, but be ready for the worst. And that to me, that experience as a student is what brought that out to me.
Yeah, and that's obviously incredible advice for all of us, and we've touched on it a little bit. We had an athletic trainer on here from my days with the Blue Jays, who's now with the Atlanta Braves, and that was his major advice as well to me as an intern. And I never thought I would have to use any of this stuff, life-saving stuff, but I always knew it, and I was always ready, and it was always in the back of my mind, where are the emergency exits, what's the EAP, and this is where the checklist that we talked about, not as important as experience, really plays a key role in sort of understanding that all those things are in place. And to the point that you talk about sort of dealing with that emotional release, or that emotion after dealing with a situation like that brings on a whole nother element of therapy and athletic therapy. Having someone to talk to, having people to go to, having people that you can relieve some of that with is massive. I just had my first ever experience with somebody passing away in my hands, and it wasn't in a field, it wasn't covering anything, it was responding to an emergency down in the Bahamas that we heard, at a construction site, and you bring that up, and like shaking and all these kinds of things, and I was just that same exact way, was very much like, this is what's happening, there's nobody here who knows how to help, I know how to help, so all the screaming and things, like you guys need to leave and let me sort of handle what I can handle here. And the second that I walked off the construction site, I just about melted, and still sort of like down the road, 6, 8 months, 10 months later, you still feel ramifications of that. And you talk about all the positive experiences. There are some of these that really hit and stick in terms of trauma and what we're taking on from other people. So it's a nice little segue to mental health and making sure that we're taking care of one another. And I know Francis, and you may be privy to the 911 for athletic therapists that's available, and these kinds of things. But I think also setting up strategies for athletes, and it sort of brings full circle back to the panel that you discussed with athletes after their careers are done and coming back to, what their quality of life is. Setting these things up while you go as well, from a mental health standpoint, as well as physical performance, is massive for all of us. So I'll just read one more question here if you have time. Are you okay still? You're under the gun? Okay. Well, Julie wants some words of wisdoms that you share with graduates as they head out into their professional careers. And then there's another one with injured athletes and staying calm. So I'll let you field that one quickly, and then we have 2 more questions, and then we'll end it, I promise.
I hate people ask me words of wisdom because I go, oh, I don't know.
I think you've given them this whole chat already.
I think, first of all, be yourself, keep things into perspective as well. You have to have perspective in terms of where you fit into the whole global picture of this. You have a life away from athletic therapy. Don't necessarily let athletic therapy consume you. There's a life away from that as well, and you want to have to foster that as well with your families and things. So keep things in balance and keep things in perspective. And also, like you want to, like I said, you want to keep things in perspective, and you want to be able to keep your athletes and your coaches in perspective as well, as much as they can get caught in the emotion of this is the most important thing in my life. At the end of the day, it's not. I remember two quotes, one from and they were both from sportscasters, but one was a friend of mine, Scott Taylor. He was in the operating room with his wife when she gave birth to their first child. Mm-hmm. And when he came back out, he said, I have just witnessed the greatest athletic event in my life. Right. And so from that perspective, he says, that's pretty important. And the other one is a fellow here in Winnipeg too, Bob Irving, who's he's a legend around here in terms of his football and stuff. And he said, I'll paraphrase it, I think, because I won't know the exact words. He says, it amazes me how people feel so passionate about something that means so little. When you stop to think about the perspective of where sport fits into the whole global thing of life. Like, can you tell me who won the Grey Cup in 1973? No, right? I can't anyways. You guys weren't even born there, so that's a bad year. But that's what happens, right? They're so important in the moment. Yeah. If you take it into the grand scheme of things, it's part of life. It's not all of life. So keep those things in perspective. Make sure your family is the most important thing for you, because they're going to be there forever and ever, where your teammates come and go.
Amazing advice. And somehow you tied the irrelevant conversation that you weren't even privy to before you got on here to the relevant conversation, because we were just talking about how before you got on here, how the Blue Jays are going to bring the team from Florida to Toronto for their spring training, or their second spring training, and like that's essential travel, right? So anyway, just interesting that all comes full circle as well. Yeah, so a ton of words of wisdoms. Strategies or questions you would use to keep injured athletes calm or distracted in emergency situations if they're conscious?
Well, it comes down to this whole trusting relationship that you've had, right? So first of all, you're the one who has to be calm. You have to be calm because they're immediately looking into you, and you're the barometer as to how bad this injury is. Because they can't look down at the ankle, they're lying down, or they don't know that the bone is displaced and stuff, but they're looking at you. If you show signs of panic or of extreme concern, then they panic. So that's important. You have to, when you go to the scene where you come on to the athlete, you need to be calm. So as you're walking or running or jogging out, you need to be calming yourself. And then you say, okay, listen, I've become a robot, and I'm just taking this thing methodically. But you also have to make sure that you're reassuring them, and go to them first. Obviously, we all know that. Go to the head first. Go and find out what they're, whether they're breathing, etc. But so if they're conscious and they're breathing, okay, let's just relax. Calm down. Tell me what's going on. Move, and just make sure that they feel like they're in good hands. And that happens well before the injury happened. Right. Yep. So that's all about the relationship that you've set up with this team and with that particular athlete, that they know that they can take risks out on the field, because they know if the risk goes the wrong way, they've got someone there to back them up, right? And so then you just have to go in and just give them the reassurance, we're in control, we're okay, and get them to calm down.
Yeah, super powerful advice. I think sometimes we get so caught in the moment that that we forget that everything that we're laying down on a day-to-day basis, on a conversation-to-conversation basis, that all makes a difference, right, in the long run. So,
funny story I had. I'll just give sort of another little funny story that comes to mind. But when I was at the University of Manitoba, at the time that I was there, this was before Laval had a football team. University of Manitoba was the only school in Canada that French-speaking athletes could come and play football, because we had an affiliation with a French-speaking university, Collège Saint-Boniface. And so we had all kinds of French athletes being recruited to come and play for us. And our coaches always made a point of bringing those athletes to our clinic to meet me. And I would start speaking to them in French. And right away they go, oh, it's pas français. And so, so they right away, they go, oh, okay, somebody's going to understand what I have to say. And so they had this connection right away. But then when we were in game situations, if somebody got hurt, I'm the lazy one. I don't run out. I send my students, right? So the students would run out. So I'd say, well, this is your learning experience. If you got a problem, call me. And so if one of them would fall down and get hurt, they'd have trouble with them. And then all of a sudden they'd wave me on and go, oh, this is more serious than we thought it was going to be. I'd run out there and they'd say, we don't understand a word he's saying. He's speaking in French. And he's fluent in English, but he's speaking in French. We can't understand a word he's saying. So I would go down to him and I started talking to him in French. And as soon as I started talking in French, he would relax, because now somebody could understand what the hell he's trying to say. But so what it was is, when they're in this stressful situation, they would revert to their first language. And so they don't communicate. So I had to come in and initiate this communication. As soon as I did that, oh, okay, I'm good now. Then we do our job, right? So it was an interesting, when you think about relationship and making sure you have this connection. And you have to learn to talk the language. I've had experiences, I've had a really neat experience of working with professional rodeo, for example.
Right.
So I've worked professional rodeo. Well, in professional rodeo, if you go to the rodeo and you don't have cowboy boots, Wrangler jeans, a Wrangler shirt, a cowboy hat, and a buckle, they're not going to talk to you. Yep. They just won't, because they go, well, you don't understand rodeo. And so you guys got to go in there and talk their language. And talking with track and field versus football versus hockey, totally different language, right? So it's relationships.
We need to talk rodeo. I think next conference we'll just hunker down and just talk rodeo. I'm sure there's some stories with rodeo and getting into that one too. So last question, I promise. What's the best way to go about advocating athletic training or athletic therapy profession in a country dominated by physical therapy or physical therapists?
Well, I have been in this, I won't say fight, but in this back and forth, if you want, with physiotherapy from the time I was in athletic therapy programs at the university and stuff. So since 1973, I had been involved in this back and forth between physio. But one of the things that we said when we were moving towards trying to get legislation and get ourselves on the insurance plans, et cetera, I sat down with all of our people and I say, never, ever degrade another profession.
Yep.
Don't say a bad word about another profession, but always build yourself up. But not at the expense of another profession, but at, build you need to show who you are, what your capacities are, etc. Never, ever degrade another profession. And we did that, and it worked out very well for us as a profession over time, particularly in Manitoba, because we had to do a lot of this groundwork here to set the stage for athletic therapy, for insurance coverages, etc. And it worked well for us, and other professions did the opposite, and it worked against them. And so, in fact, it's interesting. I just saw a thing that came out from our MATA today, actually, from our MATA office, and they were saying essentially it's saying that we don't want to see anybody degrading any other organization. And I don't know where it's come from, if it's just something that's a routine sort of message they're going to start putting out right now, or if we had some issues. But I've always said, never, ever degrade another organization.
Yeah. Perfect. And just go back and watch this video a couple times before you're presenting anything. There's a ton of good stuff in here in terms of how to present what it is that we can really do as a profession, and the breadth and the scope and the integrative nature of athletic therapy, athletic training. So really amazing stuff tonight, Glen. This has been Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable session 27. Appreciate you taking the time. I wish you the best with the recovery fully from the recent surgery. And I hope we can stay in touch here in the next few weeks, next few months, until we can get together again and chase you out of the room with some rum and whatever else you're drinking on that night. It's been great, man. Really, really appreciate it. And there's a lot of people out here that if they didn't know you, they know you now, and continue to look up to you and try to serve our purpose in growing this profession right behind you. So appreciate you being on, Glen. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations to you too for doing this. I think it's a great thing. I've been on a few of them and watched, and I think this has been great. So I'm glad you're doing this. I think this goes a long way to just advance the familiarization of the profession amongst all of us. And I hate to say this because we've heard it so many times now in the last 4 months, but we're all in this together.
Yep, you got it. You exactly. You got it. Everybody else, really appreciate you guys being here as well. And for those of you picking it up on YouTube, make sure that you stay on here. Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable. Our next session will go Sunday night, 7:45 Eastern, with Joe Hurtubise, a PhD in neuroscience, CATA, now out west. And
she is awesome.
And she is fantastic. Absolutely. So Glen, not out to you, man. Really, really appreciate everything that you said, taking it to heart and using it in the future and in the current times as well. So thank you again. This has been amazing. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Take care. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good night.
See you, Alex.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.